Hey there, Grade 7. Welcome to today's explainer for our MAPEH PE and health lesson. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through this today. You know, if you've ever watched a martial arts demonstration and just wondered how the athletes move with such incredible precision and grace, well, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're breaking down fundamental combative sport skills, and we're going to do it by focusing on a massive source of national pride, arnis. As your teacher, I really want you to know right up front that today's lesson isn't just about learning physical movements. It's about understanding the mechanics, the safety protocols, and the entire mindset behind those movements. We're going to take our time, unpack these concepts step by step, and really build your knowledge from the ground up.
Here is our game plan for today's explainer. First, we'll cover arnis, heritage and control. Second, the fundamental skills. Third, safe space and time. Fourth, the 6 steps in practice. And finally, developing true mastery. We'll start with the cultural roots and progress all the way to executing a perfectly controlled partner drill.
Section 1. Arnis, Heritage, and Control.
Okay, let's dive right into this first section where we explore the rich history and the core mindset you need for our topic today. To really understand our lesson, we first have to define what we're talking about. Arnis, which you might also hear called eskrima or kali, depending on the region, is an indigenous Filipino martial art. It's amazing because it beautifully connects our physical skills directly to our Filipino heritage. It utilizes both weapon-based and empty-hand skills. But I want you to pay close attention to the most important part of this definition. It focuses on control and precision, totally, rather than random force. When we practice arnis in our PE classes, we aren't just doing a workout. We're actively participating in a cultural tradition that demands deep respect, focus, and a highly disciplined mind.
And that brings us to a huge myth that we need to completely debunk right now. It is absolutely crucial to understand that skillful performance is not about brute force. Sometimes when people think of combative sports, they just picture 2 people hitting each other as hard as they possibly can. But in arnis, and especially in our classroom, random force is literally dangerous. It's the exact opposite of skill. True mastery requires discipline, restraint, and above all else, safety. Think of it this way. A true master of arnis is someone who can stop their strike a millimeter away from a target. That incredible level of control is exactly what we are aiming for, not just swinging wildly.
Section 2. The fundamental skills.
That mindset of total control leads us perfectly into our actual fundamental skills. Remember, we absolutely cannot build speed or complex movements on a shaky foundation. Everything has to start with the ready stance. Before you even think about throwing a strike or a block, you must establish a balanced body position. I always like to think of the ready stance using a really simple analogy. Think of it like the deep roots of a massive tree. A tree can only withstand a huge storm if its roots are firmly planted in the dirt, right? Well, similarly, your stance is the literal foundation of your control. It gives you the direction and balance you need to move. If your feet and your posture are unstable, it's basically impossible to be accurate, even if your arm movements look perfect. Plus, a proper ready stance is what allows you to safely recover and reset after you make a move. Now let's talk about our core movements, the strike and the block. A strike is your offensive movement. But remember what we just talked about. It has to be controlled and directed to a very specific target area. It is definitely not just about hitting hard. A block, on the other hand, is your defensive movement. Its entire purpose is to safely intercept or redirect that incoming strike. I don't want you to look at these as 2 opposing forces fighting each other. Instead, think of them as 2 partnered halves of one single coordinated sequence. In a partner drill, the strike provides a specific cue, and the block is the correct, measured response to it. They have to work together perfectly to create a safe learning environment for everyone.
Section 3. Safe space and time.
Okay, so now that we know the physical movements, we have to talk about exactly where and when they happen. Let's transition into the importance of environmental and spatial awareness during our partner practice. The concepts of range and reaction time are what actually keep you and your partners safe in class. Range is simply the physical distance between you and your partner. This distance completely dictates whether a technique can be done effectively and, more importantly, safely. If you stand too close, you lose control and risk accidentally hurting someone. But if you stand too far away, the technique totally loses its accuracy and its purpose. Finding and maintaining that perfect, safe range is an active, ongoing responsibility for both partners throughout the entire drill.
And this leads us to a really fantastic point from our source material. Reaction time is not just hand speed, it's seeing, understanding, and answering the cue. Let's use a real-world analogy to make sense of this. Think about answering a ringing phone. You don't just wildly grab it as fast as you can.
First, you have to actually hear and recognize the ring. That's seeing the cue. Then you have to process what it means. That's understanding. And finally, you pick up the receiver to safely say hello. That's answering. In arnis, when your partner initiates a strike, you must clearly see the movement, understand the target they are aiming for, and then safely respond with the appropriate block. It absolutely requires your brain and your body to work in perfect harmony.
Section 4. 6 steps in practice.
To make absolutely sure we develop these skills safely, we rely heavily on structure. This structured practice flow guarantees that every single training session remains a safe and highly productive learning activity. Whenever we practice in class, we are going to rigorously follow these 6 sequential steps. Step 1. Inspect the area and equipment. We have to make sure there are no hazards on the floor and that our equipment is totally safe to use. Step 2. Warm up the major joints. We never ever jump into partner work without preparing the body first. Step 3. Assume that stable ready stance we talked about. Get those deep tree roots planted. Step 4. Practice strikes slowly. Notice I said slowly. This lets your brain map out the correct path of the movement. Step 5. Match those strikes to blocks with your partner. And finally, Step 6. Cool down and reflect. We always reflect to identify where our movements were stable and maybe where we might have been a little unsafe so we can fix it next time. This exact order is strictly non-negotiable because it thoroughly prepares both your environment and your body before any interaction even happens.
Let's see how this all builds into our safety-first protocol. Imagine a very real scenario in our class. You're practicing a block, but your partner is swinging way too hard and way too fast. What do? Well, you stop the drill immediately. And listen to me on this. Stopping an unsafe drill is never, ever a punishment. It is a responsible and totally necessary safety check. Once you stop, you both agree to reduce the speed and the force. You review your safety cues and your distance. Remember your range. And only when both of you are completely calm and ready, you resume slowly. In combative sports, safety always comes way before ego.
Section 5. Developing true mastery.
Now, let's zoom out and look at the big picture. How are you ultimately going to be evaluated? And how do you actually achieve genuine skill development over time? Notice the strict progressive sequence of how we learn here. The progression of mastery has to happen in this exact order. Control, then accuracy, then speed. First, you must establish control. This just ensures every single movement is safe and deliberate. Once you can completely control your body, then you work on accuracy. We do this through slow, highly focused practice, making sure your strike hits the exact right target every single time. And speed? Speed is always added last. Why? Well, if you execute a technique super fast, but it's incorrect and completely uncontrolled, you are just magnifying the error and drastically increasing the risk of someone getting hurt. A true master is absolutely not the person moving the fastest. It's the person who can stop, adjust, and maintain their balance with total, absolute precision.
As we wrap up our explainer for today, I want to leave you with a final thought to really carry with you beyond the walls of our PE classroom. Here is a provocative question for you. Paano nakatutulong ang pagpractice ng control sa arnis sa disiplina sa ibang bahagi ng buhay? Or, in English, how does practicing control in arnis help with discipline in other parts of life? Really think about that for a second. The physical restraint, the deep respect for your partner, the patience it takes to learn slowly before speeding up, that spatial awareness, how do all these physical practices actually translate to how you study, how you treat your friends, or even how you handle challenging situations at home? Arnis teaches us that true power really lies in control. Keep this in mind as you continue your practice. Thank you so much for joining me for this Explainer Grade 7, and I genuinely look forward to seeing your disciplined, controlled movements in our very next session.